3, 2, 1.
There we go.
Awesome. There's always a big spike on my audio recordings. I can always tell. The worst is when I forget to do that, and I have to like go piece by piece and try and slowly stitch it together till it sounds okay.
Yeah, I absolutely hate when you have to deal with that kind of stuff. With a video production, we deal with that all the time, where we've got like an audio that's just a little bit out of sync, so you got to kind of match it up with something. Hopefully, somebody clicks a lot when they talk. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, actually, my one of my first questions for you for this is a lot of the time on your channel and on your Twitter and on your videos, and just then you refer to we. Could you give some more details about the team that's behind your channel? Because I can see that you're the face of it and you're the one who does the talking and such, but is there a team behind what you do?
When Rerez started out, it wasn't a team. It was just me. But I went to school for media and development, video production, and I worked a little bit in marketing. And I noticed that whenever somebody would talk about themselves as a singular person in media, it felt very isolating. So even when it was just me, I would always say we, like the royal we. I wanted people to feel like when I'm looking at a product, it's not just me talking to the viewer, it's us together, the viewers, the commenters, everybody is together doing this together. That was the idea of it. But now Rerez actually is a team. So we have 3 people in total. We have our own studio. Originally it was just me, and my girlfriend at the time would help once in a while, but then she became my wife. Then she left her job to work on the show full time. We met in film school. And then my friend Adam came to join as well too, and he was had his own channel separately, and then he came on to start editing and being in productions as well.
Very nice. And how long ago was this film school? Was this back at the very beginning of your channel, or was this halfway through, or how long ago was this film school and media production when you first started?
Oh boy, I went to film school back in 2006. Yeah, it's been a while.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so I was there for a bit. I graduated with the first program I was in, then I entered in another program, and I ended up not completing that one to go straight into the workforce, into marketing and stuff like that. At the time, I had no idea I knew what YouTube was. I was watching it a lot because I was very much into video games. And I had a channel, but what I would upload was videos that people never cared about. I did have one video go viral at the time, but nobody knew it was me. Nobody still knows it's me. And I did that kind of stuff for a little bit. I wasn't really content with that. So about the time I was at work, I was working at a place that dealt with health sciences and nutrition, weight gain and weight loss, which I have no idea. Like I knew nothing about that world. They just needed somebody that could clip video clips together. It was so bizarre. I'd meet all these like celebrities, these like sports stars, and I have no idea who this person is. Like, oh, you throw balls in a ring, cool. Like I had no idea. I met MMA fighters and bodybuilders. I met Mr. Olympia or whatever they're called, like the huge muscle-bound people that, same height as me, and I'm short, and they're just stacked with muscles, and it looks like if they wanted to, they could knock down the building we were in, like really big folks. And around the time I was shooting videos and editing that kind of stuff, I didn't like it a lot. So I ended up wanting to create a show about video games because I was really influenced by a show called Electric Playground, which I watched growing up, and I really wanted to do something like that. So I contacted a friend of mine who was a producer, and we actually made Rerez a TV pilot first. And
oh wow, okay.
I did not believe I could be on camera, so we hired 3 actors to be in front of the camera, and I was working behind the scenes. The whole thing. It was so great to work with all that entire team, but everyone was all over the place, and we couldn't come together to make more episodes. And the pilots we sent out, they were dime store budget pilots. Like we did not have a budget, so it never actually came together. It never completely worked. But one day when I was at work, I was feeling a little ill, so I ended up going home, and I was like, okay, I can't go into work today. I'm not feeling great. But I'm home, so why don't I just try filming a video? And I did. and I really liked the way it felt. I never wanted to be on camera, but I thought maybe this might work. So I did this top 5 NES games video, which is technically the first Rerez video, even though it looks like the second or third one on the channel.
Yeah, it's the third I can see. You had Donkey Kong versus Popeye and 6 stages of Faster Than Light.
Yes.
Come before on here.
So the third one, that's the first video before anything.
Okay.
I recorded that. The reason I never uploaded it was because if you watch that video and listen to my voice, I'm sick when it starts, but I progressively get better as the video goes because I go back later on to record more audio. So you'll hear me get sick to healthy all the way to the end of the video. And I was like, okay, I can't put that up online. So I did a bunch of other stuff. And then I was like, you know what, let's just try this. And then I tried that video out and I ended up liking the way that was. But yeah, the top 5 videos were like a big thing on YouTube during that day.
That's really cool. And do you have any intention of going back to that side of things? So doing video production for more mainstream media and companies in the future, or are you pretty set on being a personality on YouTube yourself from here on out?
Well, it's not that I don't mind being kind of like the face of the channel sometimes, but I do one day want to return to more creative ambitions whether it be directing or video game production. I've never actually worked on a video game before, but that's something I've always admired from afar ever since I was a kid. And my entrance into video development was purely from a point of I'm not smart enough with math to be programming games. Okay. So I thought it would be way easier to just get into film and learn the difficulties of that, because it seemed to be more of a process that I could understand. I could see the building blocks, and I tried to reach that first. And that independent world of video development, I tried a little bit, but I was never very good at it. So kind of Rerez turned into what this little side project that just kept growing and growing and growing as it went along.
And was there a point where this side project, like a turning point that you noticed, where this side project became something bigger than just something on the side? It became your full-time thing? Was there, say, a video that kind of caught wind, or was there, a moment in the background where it kind of suddenly changed for you?
Well, for sure, it definitely was one video specifically. So I was... I had taken time off of work. I decided to leave and just try Rerez. I had saved a little bit of money from working, and I thought maybe I should just give this a go. The first video that really blew up was a video that I personally didn't think anyone was going to care about. I had gone to this weird store that used to be a roller rink, and they just stacked it with all this old crap that nobody wanted. And I ended up getting a video game console there called the Wireless 60, and I was with my friend at the time. His name's Alex, and he was just like, "Don't buy this. No one is gonna watch you play this stupid thing." And I was just enthralled with it. I was like, "This looks stupid. I've never heard anyone do a video on this." So I picked it up, brought it home, tried to record it. It broke. The video just got completely damaged from the capture got damaged from some issue that the system had. So I ended up trying to record the system 2 or 3 times, and on the third time I was so tired, didn't like what I had created. It was this really long, aggressive video that just didn't sound the way I would typically want to do a Rerez episode. But I was like, whatever. Too much time has gone into us to this. Throw it up. Let's see if people like it. So that was the first worst ever video, and that video blew up. Within a month, it was bringing in more viewership than I'd ever seen on any of my previous videos, and it just kept expanding and expanding. And at that point, I realized that Rerez could actually be more of not really a career forever, but at least for now, a sustainable business that could just keep generating income by making videos that are really fun to watch. And
this is your full-time career now, is that right?
Oh, yeah. I do YouTube all the time now. This is 24/7.
Yeah. And have you ever thought about going into the world of streaming and that kind of thing, or is it all 100% YouTube for you from what you can see going forward?
Well, there's a lot of time and dedication that's needed to stream, and as much as I can edit myself to look funnier on camera and maybe much more engaging, I've tried to do streams on and off, but I just don't think I'm the right personality for solo streams. I think that it takes a really bright and big personality to have somebody be enjoyable to watch solo for that long. I had a lot more fun working with people on streams rather than by myself. And so I never really started that up, because at the very beginning, to do that, you would need to have been by yourself doing it. And I just thought, if I ever do it in the future, it's got to be with other people for sure.
Yeah, I've seen you've got a playlist on your YouTube channel. It's one of your larger playlists, actually. It's got 40-something videos, I believe, where you do collaborations with other YouTubers and other content creators. Is that something that you enjoy doing, is working with others, or are there any problems that you've found that you've faced doing something like that?
Oh no, I prefer it. My entire goal from Rerez at the very beginning was never to really be by myself. That's why I wanted to be a show. I thought it'd be a lot more fun to work with others. And I would say that the longer it went with me just working by myself, the harder it was. I liked working with collaboration or doing collaborations with other people, and very rarely was it ever us in the same room together. It was always YouTube has this crazy way of doing collaborations where you're not beside each other. Your friend can be in Australia, and you can try and work on a video together, but it's different time zones. You're creating different chunks, and then you're sending them to one or the other to kind of combine it into something. And although I appreciate those kind of videos and the dedication it takes to do that, I never felt like that really was the thing I wanted it to be. And I think what really spin that into a much better, much more fun environment was when Adam joined on board. Adam had his own channel called It's a Dog and Game, and when he went to go join the channel, we actually accidentally lived closer to each other than either of us knew. I think he found out first that I lived fairly close to where he was. But he was teaching in another country, and it was a very different scenario. But when he came back home, he came over to my house, and we started collaborating on videos, and then we started working on bigger projects together. And ever since then, it's been, I'd say every video that Rerez has done for the past couple of years now has been a collaboration with a team instead of just an individual making it.
Mm-hmm. And with these collaborations that you have done in the past, how does it work when you get the idea to do them? So would you reach out to somebody? Do they reach out to you? Or is there another workings behind the scenes to get you guys together to make something?
It was always a mixture. If I was to collaborate with somebody else, they might have asked me. Because the worst ever video I don't think anyone really asked me to collaborate before the worst ever video came out. But after that, there's a lot more people that did. I had joined Retroware TV at very early days on the Rerez channel. Pat the NES Punk had reached out to me and asked me to join, and I did. And from there, I ended up collaborating with a lot of my fellow Retroware TV members. And then from there, I also joined Channel Awesome during kind of the end times with that whole collaboration thing. But I'd worked with those people on and off and had more background conversations in video productions. But more often than not, people would contact me rather than me contacting them, because I always kind of felt a little shy and embarrassed to reach out to somebody that I admired from afar to go, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you were on one of my videos? Like, it always felt a little bit weird. So I didn't want to do that. But whenever somebody would ask me, I always try to make time to make that happen.
It's pretty much what I do right now is I message people on Twitter going, hey, I like your stuff. Do you want to be in my video?
Well, it's hard, right? You're basically going fishing, and you have to hope something's going to be there. So one of the biggest videos I think I had ever done was Rerez was starting to grow, and it had a pretty decent following at the time, and I wanted to kind of give back to a bunch of people that didn't have the reach that Rerez was getting. Yeah. So I created the biggest collaboration video I could possibly do. So I let anyone send in a video. It didn't matter who they were. To send in I think it was 30 seconds to talk about their favorite game, whatever it was. And everybody that I knew, including a whole bunch of people I didn't know who just needed that kind of break out, sent in their videos, and a whole bunch of those people ended up getting pretty big. One of them actually, I think, surpassed Rerez a little while ago. Sean Long, who at the time really he had an audience, but it wasn't big yet, and there was a whole bunch of other people that some don't really create videos anymore, but others had just like thrown in their little 30 seconds just to kind of get something out there. And it took a while to take everybody's videos from all over and turn it into this one big thing. But after that, I haven't done another one since. But that was a lot of fun to make something like that.
Yeah, that does sound pretty cool. And so I was looking at your stats on your channel earlier. I've got here that your Rerez channel started in August 2012 with 203,000 subscribers and 35.6 million views currently. Is that something that you kind of envisioned ever happening from the start? And is this kind of a trajectory that you see going forward as well? Or do you see it kind of petering off? Or is there something else you see in the distance for this channel?
Well, I don't really gauge the success of the channel by subscriber numbers. I don't like asking for people to subscribe or like or comment. When I ask someone to comment, if I ever do, it's because legitimately there's something we're having a conversation about. Share that with us. Or if there's something that we don't, share that with us. It's not please comment to get our video more traction. Like I don't.
Please like.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not to make fun of other people that do this. I personally cringe whenever I start up a video and I see, please comment, like, and subscribe, and hit so that bell.
Annoying.
It's you see it on every single video, and I've never wanted to make a video that was like that. It works, right? There's a reason why people do it. If I started doing it, I probably would get another 100,000 subscribers. I imagine it's crazy, but people being told to do something will do it. I just don't like telling people what to do. I don't like that. So I never ever really wanted to have that there. But yeah, it's one of those things where I would have to say that when I started Rerez, I didn't expect it to grow where it is now. I was hoping that I'd have like a dedicated following of like just like a small group of people, hardcore gamers and stuff like that really liked certain games, and then we'd have like a little fun thing of videos like that maybe could hold itself over, but I never expected it to get to the size it's at now. I never expected any one video to get 1 million views, let alone the several that we have now, which to this day is still crazy to me. I don't know how. I mean, I get it now than I did more now than I did in the past, but the me of the past was never expecting a video where literally you can see the power cord for the light that's shining in the wrong way behind me in the shot the entire time. Like that was not a thing. It's ridiculous that I think even that video has so many views, and I always get like little messages about it, like what's with this, what's with that. Like I think in that video there's like a popcorn machine on in the background because I literally was just making popcorn. This was not the whole day for me. This is what I was doing for that moment. It's an insane thing.
Do you ever have the feeling that you want to kind of go back and re-look at a video you've done in the past and kind of upgrade it to the quality that it is now? So maybe record a video when you're not sick, or you're kind of just leaving them where they are?
Oh no, I definitely want to look back at other products again. I recently repurchased the Wireless 60, the first system I ever looked at on the System in the Worst Ever series, which wasn't a series at the time. And I've watched that video several times to see what I did wrong, and I know the things that I did wrong, so I kind of want to redo it just to kind of refresh it and go, look, with a newer perspective, with the ideas and everything that I've learned in the past, here's what the system means now. Is it any better? Is it any worse? Because at the time, I legitimately thought there's no way a system could be any worse than this.
Oh yeah.
At no point did I know there was a sequel or a prequel or anything like that. I had no idea that Soulja Boy would work together and make all these stupid video game systems a thing. This was not the intention. It was to make one single video, not to make a series out of it. But it just kept getting worse and worse the more I dug into it, seeing that these companies are like a spider web of production facilities that all work together and share some of their assets and make terrible systems basically to screw over the consumers as quick as they can, to make somebody think, oh, I'm buying a Wii. And then they realize when they get home, this is not a Wii, but it's too late.
No. Yeah. And I looked at your videos and I kind of sorted through them by popularity, which ones came out on top, as it were. And looking at it, the majority of them are hardware related. It is going to be about, the worst consoles ever made and obscure consoles and Soldier Boy consoles and things like that. Do you want to branch out more into different areas rather than just hardware? Or is looking at hardware kind of your main thing now?
The original intent was to talk about weird games or just strange games that I really liked when I was a kid that I didn't think enough people were talking about. Early on the channel, I had like a vision for what Rerez would be, and my mom and my dad bought a lot of just weird video games for me, whether it be from like a discount store or whatever. And I grew up playing those games thinking, these are good games. Sure. Yeah. Back to the Future on the NES. That makes sense. And like I to this day, as stupid as that is, I actually really like that game for what it is, but I know a lot of people really hate it. Yeah. There's these games out there that I was playing that I think a lot of people tend to hate. And I really liked what they were, or there was something about it that I really enjoyed. And that's what I was trying to do earlier on with the channel, was talk about those weird ones. One of my favorite games of all time is a game called Magical Puzzle Popples, and it was released for the Game Gear. And I was trying to make a video that basically told people how cool this game is. You never think about this game. No one ever talks about it, really. But it's a Game Gear game that has a built-in battery automatic save. So when you power down the Game Gear and turn it back on, it doesn't turn on to like a boot screen. It goes straight to the last level you left off. Very few games did that at that time period, especially on the Game Gear. It had a build your own level section, so you could just build your own level. It had tons of great puzzles that were built into it. And all around, it's just a wonderful game. Great soundtrack, great character designs, and it's just really fun. But nobody ever talked about it. To this day, still people don't really talk about it. And I tried to make those videos kind of the center and focus on Rerez. But the more I made other videos about hardware, the more that they started to become more popular. So it started to create this kind of like weird, unbalanced ground where if I really wanted people to be watching videos, or if I was making videos primarily that other people would enjoy, did it make sense to keep making videos that people weren't going to be watching? Shouldn't I be making more videos that they want to see? And not in the thing that like I don't enjoy making them. I still do, but it's this weird combat where it's like I can take a risk and make this video, and once in a while we still do that. Or I can try and make something that I know people are really going to have fun and enjoy. And it's not me making videos that I don't like, but making videos that I think a lot of other people are going to enjoy just as much as I do making them.
And do you think that's a content thing, or is it possibly a YouTube algorithm thing? Is it down to people are just more interested in looking at these Soldier Boy consoles rather than, say, these obscure games that they're not as familiar with, or is there something else behind the works?
I think it's a mixture of the two. There's a bit of arrogance if I were to say that the videos I produce about older arcade games that I really liked, or even a game that I'm a big fan of, like Shenmue, I've made videos on those products and those games and those systems, and I was really wanting to show people how cool those things are. And even if those videos weren't a success, the arrogance in me would be like, well, they were good videos. It's just YouTube being stupid. And,
yeah, exactly.
And there's a part of that, right? It is. YouTube does have its own ecosystem, and there's a way to live in that ecosystem, and there's a way to do videos for that. And definitely those Soldier Boy videos are 100% that. Like, the Worst Ever series is something that became the algorithm. You think it's funny, but like up until that point, nobody really made a video just called The Worst Ever Console. Like, it didn't exist. When I did the first one, I think it was a month later, Pro Jared made his own, and his just blew up. But this was like afterwards. Beforehand, no one was really doing that. People made like top 5 bad consoles, and they'd always pick, Virtual Boy or like name brand systems, right? But I'm just like, the Virtual Boy is amazing compared to some of the things I've seen. So there is that thing. You never really know what video is going to explode. You might be able to gauge some of the success and can count on some of that viewership to come in, but the knowledge of actually thinking about a video that you believe is just going to go viral right away, unless you have some amazing foresight, that's something you really can never know for sure. And I do believe that YouTube is a bit is mostly to blame for that, because if a video has some kind of key phrase that just works, it'll just blow up for no reason. And it doesn't, and you might be thinking, oh, it's a name, it's something like that. It doesn't have to be that. It can literally be something as minor as a little emulation system. And we've covered many on the channel. One of the videos we did was on the Mochi i7S. And there's nothing really special about this product. I happen to think it's pretty good, but no one was really talking about it in a big way. But seemingly over the course of a couple of days, it generated over 100,000 views really rapidly fast. And that wasn't us. That was YouTube doing that. However, it organically created all that stuff. That was totally YouTube.
And was there ever a moment or some point in the video production where, okay, you've gone ahead and you've found this seemingly bad video game system. You've taken it, you've tested it, and you've come away from messing with it thinking, I actually enjoyed this quite a lot. Was there ever a time that your expectations kind of changed along the way?
There have been a couple systems that I've picked up assuming they were going to be bad that ended up being pretty good and actually really fun. Even the worst systems that I've looked at, I would say the hardest worst ever consoles I've had to look at are the ones that are so bad there's nothing you can talk about with them. As funny as this is, we just released the 3rd Soulja Boy video. Probably never going to release another one, but we'll see what happens. He's an entrepreneur. But that 3rd video, that system is so bad, it was impossible for us to. When we picked it up, I actually started playing it. I was certain that this thing is just going to break any second and stop working. And sure enough, after I think 20 minutes of using it, the laser locked on it, but I didn't know what happened. It just stopped reading discs. So there's all these things with these systems that you can't expect. Like a worst ever system is unlike any other system you're going to look at because they're made to be cheap. They're made to be sold fast. They're not made to last. And you might get one that doesn't work. We were actually sent a Sega Genesis. I believe it's a Brazilian Sega Genesis I think it has like 300 games built into it. We have the system. When we push the power light or the power button on, the light turns on, but no video signal comes out of the system. So we've got the system sitting there and we can't do anything with it. It just doesn't work. Ugh. And if we could turn it on, I assure you there would be a bunch of stuff in there that would be so fun to pull apart. But that happens a lot. We'll get something that just has no way to work and you can't do anything with it except film a stump, essentially.
And do these companies ever come in contact with you to say, hey, could you take a look at our product? Has that ever happened? Or is it mostly you going out? Because I can't imagine Soulja Boy ever, slipping into the DMs saying, do you want to check this out?
No, I've never spoke to Soulja Boy, but we've had companies reach out to us based off of this is actually for real happened. We were covering one of the Soulja Boy systems, and then a third-party company noticed their games were on it, and they reached out to us to find the legal information of where we got the system, who's producing it, and all that stuff because their lawyers were not happy.
Oh, so, God. Okay.
Yeah, that stuff has happened. But in terms of companies reaching out, we have had a product that we covered, and I won't say what it is for the safety of the company because I don't feel like they need to be on blast because in the end it ended up doing a good job. But we covered a product they made, and we really didn't like it. We thought it was terrible. So they contacted us later and said, look, we improved everything. We're going to send it to you. Be honest. And I was like, well, the worst thing that happens is you sent something to us that, again, isn't very good. And there have been products that have come in that, out of the respect of our viewers and the company, I just don't feel like covering, because I don't want to be this super negative person all the time looking at these things and just going, you did all of this stuff wrong. But in this instance, they did a marked improvement over their original system. So I was happy to report on that and talk about that. But yeah, companies do reach out to us. All over. It really depends. It can be a very large company or a very small company, and everyone wants to kind of to be friendly and not really curve the message and like kind of control it, but they really want to be there with the people making these videos to try and to have some impact to make the video happen. Not in a negative way or a positive way, but just to make the video happen. Any kind of conversation, whether it be negative or positive, always benefits the company. And in general, if you're talking to a company more often, I tend to think that kind of sways you to more of a positive field, because you're a lot less likely to say negative things about a company unless you've set up rules for yourself for how you treat that when you're out in the wild.
And this hardware that you've used in your videos, do any of them do you use on a regular basis at all, or is it once, say, the video's done, they kind of popped away into a box, or has anything kind of, stuck around for quite a while after you've reviewed it?
Well, on the channel, this is from day one. I had set up like an idea for how hardware would be treated in Rerez. So I've never accepted a brand deal or any kind of paid advertisement on the channel ever. It's never happened. I've never wanted to do that. I didn't want people thinking that my opinion was being swayed by a company. But at the same time, I recognize that in order to move forward, if somebody ever sends us a product early on, we have several in the studio right now that we're going through, people need to understand that we're giving our honest opinion, even though that was sent in to us for free. So the rules that we have is that if a product gets sent in, I can't trade it for profit. I can't sell it. It exists in the studio. I can give it out and give it away to someone, but I can never like profit from that device being there. So more often, I found myself, okay, this product just got sent in. It goes in a box. It goes to the side. And when I need to cover it again for like a review or of some sort, then it gets covered again in the future. If a console's been sent in to us from a company, I like to use that as much as I can to get a better perspective on that console and the games being released on the platform, so that my opinion on that stuff can be more up to date. But I have taken systems that have been sent in, put them in a box, and I put them in the back of a shelf for that day that in the future we might have to cover it again. And we do give away stuff a lot to either fans or viewers or anything like that. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And what's your process from like kind of a broad overview from start to finish of, say you've got this idea, I would like to make a video, let's say the worst plug and play console ever. Just thinking of that one that you did. What's your kind of workflow for making a video from start to finish, like a general overview?
Well, the way it would typically begin is, especially if it's a worst ever, they're different. They're not like any other video we've done. We did a video on Shenmue 1 and 2, the HD collection, and that was more of a documentary of why it's so important, why you should play it. That series has a different feel to it. Worst ever, though, the first thing you do is you have to sit down and you have to play the entire system beginning to end. It's a book and you got to read it. So I think a lot of people would believe that we just avoid playing certain games on the system, but we really don't. The worst plug and play system, the one that, or the second one anyway, I forget how many games are on there, but I played every single game. I recorded every game. I tried to complete every single game. It took me days and days to play through the entire thing, but I did. And I ended up recording more reviews than what was actually put into the video at the end, because I let my wife Robin, who's the producer on the show now, sit there and basically take out reviews that she felt didn't fit in the final product. And I think that made a much better video because after a while, I'm just like cross-eyed, just looking at this huge project.
Yeah.
I don't even care anymore. It became this like epic tome. It's one of the longest videos we ever did, and I cut that thing primarily myself. So it's this thing where you have to start playing the entire system. From that, generally, what I would do is I would write notes to myself on what were the key things to talk about. Outside of the last handful of worst ever consoles, I'd say the last 2 or 3, every worst ever video was essentially me ad-libbing the whole thing. There would be no script. I would write down a note of something to say, and then I would just speak from my head about all these things that I was feeling about the system. Even the jokes would be jokes I'd record, and then I'd go on later and try to come back and bridge it in some way to kind of make like a good joke in some fun way. But typically you're hearing me discover it as I go along with the viewer. That's kind of how those early ones would play out. And the newer ones aren't like that anymore. But play the games, play the entire system, write some notes, and then do the voiceover, and then do the video in that exact order. And the system itself, though, that is probably the longest amount of time dedicated to it. Editing takes a long time, but you have to sit there and play so many bad games. And then, as reference material, play the original game that it came from, if it's a ripoff or something, just so you can know what they changed, if they changed anything at all.
Oh God, sounds like so much hard work. And does Robin usually do the quality control in a sense where you have like the kind of this large creative freedom? You play all these games, maybe you don't want to, but you play all these games, you do the recordings, you make these notes, and for every video, does she kind of go through and pick out the pieces and kind of refine it for you?
Well, at the time that she was working on the show like that, she was. But now, because there's 3 of us now, we all do that. We all sit down and watch the videos, and we all pick apart what we're doing to see if there's anything that can be refined in that. Lately, a lot of the videos have been edited by Adam, and he's been doing a great job at like doing things I can't do. He's an animator. He knows how to take these really impressive visual designs and throw them into the videos. And with him, we created Gabby Games, and like that's him drawing all that, animating all that, which is something I have no way to do at all. But those kind of videos have improved because of that kind of stuff. Because even if I think of something in a video just has to be there, I can be talked out of it. It's hard to talk me out of it, but I can be talked out of it, and I think it makes a better video in the end.
Yeah. And so once you've made this video, you've played these hundreds of games on these terrible systems, what do you play for fun to kind of relax and unwind?
Well, lately, I find myself playing just so many weird games. I've been playing a lot of Dead Cells recently, mostly because I've been looking at a controller, and I've been playing that a lot. But some games I really like, Hitman 2, the new one that got released. I think it's one of the best Hitman games. I would argue the best Hitman game they've ever released. Yeah. I really like playing puzzle games like Tetris and Puyo Puyo. I assure you I'm not good at Puyo Puyo, but I'm pretty good at Tetris.
Okay.
I like to play games where I can watch something like a TV show or something to the side and then play the game by itself. And I think Hitman's a bit of a joke in that sense, because Hitman is a great game by itself, but I almost treat Hitman like it's a puzzle game, because that's really what it is to me. It's an epic puzzle, and you have to figure out where all the pieces fit together, and that's why I've liked Hitman so much. But I'm a big fan of a lot of first-person shooters and just so many different games, but I think the only thing I don't play regularly are sports games, because I rarely ever find those to be enjoyable, or any game that I as much as I don't want to knock it, free-to-play games in general always seem to be a little bit worse for wear. Like, they're created to just gamify your time rather than be enjoyable pieces of gaming.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I've never been much of a... It's like a mobile gamer, because my phones have been pretty terrible, and that's where most of the free-to-play stuff lies. But I basically become addicted to a smartphone game, one of the South Park smartphone games, and it's like how you said, they just gamified your free time. Like, having notifications for when you can start, earning rewards and stuff is, when you stop and look at it, it's actually really bad, but I can't help myself getting addicted to it.
No, yeah, that can definitely be a thing. There was a time when I was trying desperately to understand that stuff. Games that are basically like tapping games, where you tap on something, then you have to wait like a full 24 hours until that thing's there. I guess Fallout has a Vault or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Fallout Shelter. That's it. Yeah, I can't stand that. At the beginning, I loved what it was because to me it looked like an old game called Ute Tower or Sim Tower, and I loved that old style of game where you built like a 2D flat plane society with a whole bunch of things going on inside of it, kind of like a vertical Sim City, and I love that aspect. But unfortunately, the time requirement of it burns me because that I don't find that enjoyable. I find that to be this super requiring thing that's not really enjoyable at all, and I see a lot of games going that way, and it just doesn't work for me. I know what games were like, and I know what they can still be like, so seeing a game like that essentially just wastes your time is in my opinion totally just kind of a time robber. It's just not a good thing for anyone to be playing.
It really is. And I think about the amount of time if I spent trying to improve my French or something like that, or exercising more, with the time I'm wasting on this damn thing, it kind of puts it in perspective. But at the same time, like, I basically got addicted to it because my partner loves this kind of game, and we both got very addicted to South Park. We love it. So it's kind of a thing we both do, but I'm trying to get out, but I can't. They've got me.
If you're having fun, that's really all that matters. But I get worried because I know for myself there gets to be a point where there's something I really want, and I don't mind paying a fixed cost for a game or a movie or a song. Those things have value, and I understand that. But to me, when I see a game that is endless free to play, there comes a point where it's like, okay, if I invest $60 here, that's me paying a full game, but I know that that's not going to end the game. I could keep spending money, and is that really worth it? There's this weird dynamic where I never see that really playing out that well for me. So it's just one of those things. I fully get that people can enjoy it a lot, but it's the same problem I have with slot machines. I'm not really like a gambler, but I felt like because of Rerez, I had to understand more about gambling. So I went to a casino and I dropped $20 on a slot machine to understand what that was like, because I don't get it at all. There's card games in general where there's some skill or strategy. I understand those. That makes sense. But a slot machine is just nothing. It's numbers on a dial or symbols on a dial, and you're totally at the mercy of this thing. What's the point? And I couldn't grasp it. I tried to, but it just didn't make any sense to me. And there's a part where on Rerez where I was looking at a pachinko game for one of the positive series I did. And on that pachinko game, there was a couple people that were sending me messages going, yeah, you don't get it. Pachinko's really fun. And I was like, no, I get pinball can be really fun because you're skilled there, but pachinko isn't that. And it was me for the little while trying to figure it out. But as weird as it is, I look at free to play and slot machines kind of in the same respect. Even if a free to play game has more fun to it, like I can understand Apex Legends or Fortnite. There's skill to playing that, and they're free to play, but they're free to play in a different way. But I think if those games had charged $60, maybe they might not have been as successful. Likely not. But they might have been a more fuller, richer game because of that.
Okay, so even after $20, you still can understand gambling.
Oh yeah, no, I can't. Okay. I can't. I mean, it's for me. It's I guess it's weird, but the generation that I'm in, we grew up playing video games like the NES and the SNES, the Genesis, the Game Boy. Games were always there for us. Why would you spend $20 on a slot machine when you can spend $20 to get a game you're going to play and enjoy a lot more, and you get to keep it afterwards? You don't even have to not play it anymore. Our arcade games, I guess, are the closest aspect to that, but boy, a $20 arcade game to play at once would not be a thing that would be successful ever.
No, not at all. Looking back on your videos over the past, well, from the creation of Rerez as it is now 7 years ago, have you seen yourself grow as a content creator? So looking back on what you're making now and what you were making at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At the very beginning, I knew how to use better tools than what I was using at the start there, but I couldn't afford the most expensive camera or the best microphone. I think the early episodes, the microphone I was using was the microphone on the camera that I was recording with. It had
gross.
So I would stick the microphone right up to my mouth and just like record that way, and it was such a bad way to do stuff. But I had no better option at the time. I would converse with other creators like, what are you doing? And a lot of people be like, well, I throw 100 pillows in my closet and then I put a blanket over me and then I record onto my laptop. And I'm just like, I don't have a closet. I don't know where I can do that. It sounded nuts, but like it's what people did, right? The ingenuity.
I don't have a closet.
Oh yeah, the ingenuity of early YouTubers to get the best quality they could is beyond what I think anyone expects. It's some of the best channels figured out this way of making cheap product or cheap productions effectively generating thousands of dollars by doing very small things that made good ideas or good things to watch. I always wanted to have high audio quality in my videos, but I'm not an audio guy. I never was. So that has been the biggest struggle. From what I know now to what I knew back then, YouTube has completely changed my perception of what is required for audio development and audio skills. Everything that I had done, even professionally in the commercial industry, I was never the audio person. There would be someone else kind of doing that. So me having to do that first made it very difficult. And getting better camera equipment over time, getting, in general, just refining my video editing skills to a place that seems to be a little bit more organic and less sterile, I think is important. Because I used to kind of be inspired by people like Alton Brown on Good Eats, or seeing Top Gear, the original Top Gear crew.
Damn right.
Yeah, not the new one, but the old one. Seeing how they treated reviewing products. Like, I don't even really care about cars all that much, but I think over time, as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate them a lot more as a mechanical device. But at the time I was watching Top Gear, I didn't like cars, but damned if those hosts knew how to talk about them and make them really exciting. And I wanted to do that with games to an extent, and I saw them doing that, so I tried to emulate some of those skills. A weird part of me too is like I've got this huge appreciation for British culture, not just because I've grown up in Canada, but I grew up watching shows like Bottom, The Young Ones, Red Dwarf.
Bottom.
Yeah. I love that show. Rick Mile is one of my favorite comedians of all time. And watching that show when I was a kid, I probably shouldn't have been, but they used to play it really late at night here, and I saw their comedic sense of timings and everything, and I think that I think that influenced me more than other comedies in here. Or around North America anyway, but seeing how they treated just editing styles and stuff like that, I found that to be far more engaging. British documentaries had this very slick style to them that seemed to show off a lot and there's a good voiceover. There's this really interesting dynamic in the way that North American video developers or video producers and European and UK video producers create content, and there is a very strange kind of like disparity between the way they do it. And the best way I can say this, and this is why I like watching both things, because I really feel they both have kind of assisted. Kitchen Nightmares in the UK on Channel 4.
It's so different.
Yeah.
Oh my gee. The one thing that I noticed with stuff like that is, particularly with Kitchen Nightmares, I don't know if you're going to say the same thing, but I'm intrigued if you will, is in the American version, there's never any silence. there's always background noise, like some cymbals going tick, 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 or like there's always this. They're trying to build tension through audio and manipulating and things like that, rather than letting it flow naturally. That's something I noticed anyway.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the Pavlov's cat or Pavlov's dog effect or whatever it is. It's I forget
Pavlovian conditioning.
Pavlovian conditioning. Thank you very much. When they ring the bell, the dog will salivate. When you have those sound effects happen in a series that you're watching, as a viewer in the U.S., when you hear that one sound, you know something's going to go wrong, or they're going to say something that's questionable. That's why they do that. But Kitchen Nightmares on Channel 4 was like, hey, you don't have to do that. I think it was Channel 4. I'm pretty sure. You don't have to do that. When you're watching this, it's the organic nature. There's still music. There's still sound. It's still there, but it's treated more like an organic just kind of dive into this world. And I believe that there are benefits to both. It's a far more engaging, fast, quick-paced feature of the American version. But when you watch the Channel 4 version, it is definitely more dramatic. It feels more serious. It doesn't feel like Gordon Ramsay's putting on like airs or anything like that. He's there because he wants to be, and he seems to be more concerned with the way that business operates. That methodology in YouTube can be the same thing, because I feel that YouTubers in general are doing something more like Kitchen Nightmares UK than Kitchen Nightmares US. YouTube is more about the personality. It's more about that driven content where it's the person bringing you information, and it should be exciting to them so that they can share that excitement with you, whatever it might be. And that's something that I believe is strictly a UK documentary style that you simply do not see in North American content. It's just because I think they want to be quicker and faster and get you in and out as fast as you can. But I mean, you would know this far better than others. We grew up in North America with a commercial culture where commercials are not that big of a deal. But in the UK, you'd have a television license where you didn't get commercials on BBC.
Yep, exactly. Yes, as you pay, what's it in dollars? Maybe like $200 and something a year, and there's no adverts on the BBC television stations and the BBC radio. The only adverts they have are for shows on their own television stations.
Oh, of course.
And those adverts are like 20 seconds long.
Yeah, and that's typically pretty good too. The one for Luther, I love. It's all backwards. It's wonderful. But that's that kind of stuff. You see that there, but I believe that correctly, or as strange as it is, it really did influence the way that the content was developed. A show like Life on Mars in the UK is
so good.
Oh, it's an amazing show. And it really does stretch out in a different way because they don't have to work for the commercial break. But I believe with YouTube, you saw the personality-driven stuff begin, but as the personalities began to understand, hey, there's money to be made here, it became the click and subscribe now, press like, comment, here's my new merch, folks. Oh, I'm going to take a break in the middle of this video so that it can cut to black because that's where the commercial is going to go, and then it's going to come back afterwards. Like, there is a huge change in the content. It's been happening over years, but you're starting to see this, and I don't want to call it ugly now, but you're starting to see this really beautiful landscape that of YouTube, of just organic creations just coming out of everywhere to just be and exist, and they're turning into this fast-paced, commercialized content, which I think a lot of the humanity of it is being robbed.
Yeah, I do agree with you. There is one channel that I enjoy their content a lot. It's a political channel, even though you said not to talk about politics, but we're not talking about it specifically. It's called a TLDR News. I don't know if you see them on YouTube. They make like good 10-minute videos about British politics and like Brexit and things like that. But every time they start their channel, it's like, oh, by the way, we're on Patreon, we got more merchandise, follow our second thing on Twitter. And you're like 90 seconds in the video before they start. And I love what they do, but it drives me absolutely mental every time.
Yeah, it does. I've never seen that channel before, but it's a common occurrence. You see it a lot with a lot of people that are front loading their videos with baked in ads and stuff like that. It can really be a thing. I understand why some creators do it, especially if they're creating. I've never seen that channel. I have to assume they put a lot of time and effort, and there's a team
Oh
that
god,
works
yeah, they
on it.
do. Yeah,
Yeah, so
definitely. They've really expanded over the past couple years, and the production quality is very good, and I do enjoy their content. But it's just that one thing that nags me.
Oh yeah, well they need to pay for their crew. They need to pay for their team, right? So that's why a lot of those people go to that length. I do believe that there's a way for YouTube channels to exist that don't offer that have enough being generated, but it's hard. It's not easy, and I think that for many people out there, jumping to a paid format, or at least offsetting the cost of the production with payment from any kind of source that isn't directly from YouTube is beneficial to them, especially if they have an editor on staff, a writer, or if they're in the case of creating political content where there might be some legal questions in the air, maybe you have a legal person on board to look over the content before it goes to broadcast.
Yeah.
That's certainly a thing that I was aware of a lot of in the commercial world, where I would be editing a video and I would have the video production done, and before the producer saw it, the lawyer would for the company would come in, sit down with me, and go, that changes, that changes, that changes. You have to black that out. You have to blur that person's face. This changes, and you had to do all that stuff.
God, wow.
Yeah. So I know that there are channels out there that have that same kind of issue where they have to have a lawyer on board or some kind of legal representation to say, look, for this to go to air, here's what you have to do to make this legit so we won't get in trouble.
I feel now that we've talked about British TV shows and such that we could talk at length about all the classic comedies from the past and all those different things. But have you watched, speaking of kitchen nightmares actually, have you watched a British TV show called The Great British Bake Off?
I have it on Netflix and I am prepared, but I have not seen it yet.
Man, so good. Get ready for the tension without the Pavlovian conditioning. It is a good one. So there's one last question I'd like to ask you, I should say, before we finish up today. Now, either you'll get this reference or you won't, because we were talking that you enjoy British politics before we started recording earlier today. So either you'll get this reference or you won't, and if you do, I'll be very happy. But my question for you is, what's the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
Was that? Oh boy. Was that they were talking to the former mayor of London?
Not quite. They were talking to Theresa May, the former prime minister, and they go, so what's the I think it's Channel 4 interview, and she goes, so what's the naughtiest thing you've ever done? She goes, oh goodness gracious me, when I was a child with my friends, I used to run through fields of wheat, and the farmer wasn't very happy.
That's an answer. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she was put so much on the spot. Her facial expression was so good. Oh god. So I put that question to you, Mr. Rerez. What's the naughtiest thing you've ever done?
Well, it definitely wasn't a wheat field, unfortunately.
Oh god.
I would have to probably say when naughtiest thing. I needed to keep. I was playing a game called Out of This World. It's Another World too. They're both same game, just different titles. The UK it was Another World, and my mom wanted me to go to bed, and she told me to turn off the system. But at the time, I had just got to a place that I couldn't get to. It took me a really long time to get there. When I was a kid, it's far more technically difficult to play those games because you don't have the knowledge or the skill set to get to the games to a certain point. I got to that portion, and I was so excited to get there. And then my mom said, turn off the system. And I was like, no, I can't. So what I did was I turned off the TV, and I kept my Sega Genesis on all night. Completely I think I hid the power light with something so my mom wouldn't notice, and it stayed on completely all night, I think for like 10 hours or whatever it was. And I woke up the next day and I just went back to playing it. And I think my mom would have been really upset to know that I left something on for that long that probably, with some kind of fabric over top, that could have caused a house fire, now that I think about it. But yeah, that in terms of gaming, that's probably the worst thing I've ever done. Or hacked in a video game. I don't know, maybe one of those, but yeah.
Oh God! And with that, that's an incredibly, incredibly naughty thing you did. I think we'll call it there. Sean, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome.